Most men never see it coming. The moment she falls for him, not with words, not with a declaration, but with a shift so subtle it escapes even her own awareness. Her heart begins to orbit his without her consent. It starts in silence, in the things she doesn't say, in the pauses, in the glances, in the hesitation when it's time to leave, in the softness in her tone when she says his name like it's a secret she's trying not to share. Love, real love, the kind she doesn't even know she's drowning in yet. It's not loud. It doesn't knock on the door like a grand gesture. It seeps in like warm light through a cracked curtain. A woman doesn't fall in love all at once. She spirals into it slowly, sometimes against her better judgment, sometimes in spite of herself. And it's not the roses or the romance that trap her, it's the gravity of who he is when he's not performing. Because the truth is, a woman can't fall for your masks. She falls for the moments when you forget to wear them, when your eyes stay a second too long, when you say something you didn't rehearse, when you show up without trying to impress, and she sees the weight you carry, not as a burden, but as proof that you endure. And in her depths, beyond her logic, her feminine soul feels drawn to that silent strength. There is a sign, a single, undeniable shift that gives her away. It's not when she touches you more, or compliments you, or even tries to spend time with you. Those are echoes, not origins. The real sign is this: she starts deferring, not with submission, not in weakness, but with reverence. She begins to unconsider you, your opinions, your time, your energy. She factors you into her decisions without even realizing it. She'll check her phone to see if you messaged. She'll replay your words in her head before bed. She'll wonder what you'd think before making a choice. This is not obedience. This is spiritual gravity. Her feminine unconscious, rooted in the archetype of the maiden and the queen, begins to mirror you. She becomes the moon to your earth, drawn not by domination but by alignment. And when this happens, when her internal compass starts to point to you, you must be aware, not arrogant, not manipulative, but sovereign. You must hold your center like a mountain, because the moment you chase what is already magnetized to you, you sever the current. You've felt it before, that subtle electricity, the way her laughter lingers too long, the way she asks about things you thought she'd forgotten, the way she looks at you, not as a man she wants something and from, but as a man she wants to understand. She is not analyzing, she is absorbing. Her curiosity is not intellectual, it is sacred. The feminine does not fall in love with resumes. She falls in love with rhythm, with resonance, with the way your presence makes her feel. I'm safe to feel. But many men ruin this. They get impatient, or they mistake quiet devotion for disinterest. They chase the validation instead of anchoring into their essence. They perform instead of project stillness. And the woman, sensing the shift, pulls back, not because her feelings changed, but because she no longer feels held. And without the container of masculine integrity, the feminine cannot surrender. Understand this: when a woman begins to defer emotionally, when she checks in, waits to see your mood, listens more than she speaks, she is not weakening, she is honoring you. She is often unconsciously inviting you to lead, not command. And that leadership doesn't come from louder words or bolder gestures. It comes from clarity, consistency, and calm presence. It comes from knowing who you are regardless of how she feels. Because love for her is not just an emotion. It is a transformation. And the man she falls in love with becomes the axis upon which her new identity turns. But she can't admit this, not yet, because she doesn't even know it. That's the mystery of the feminine heart. It loves before it knows. It gives before it understands. It opens before it trusts. And the sign, the one sign you must pay attention to, is this quiet reverence, not in her words, in her patterns. The way she begins to orbit your world even as she pretends she hasn't moved. She won't call it love, not yet. She'll tell herself she's just curious, just intrigued, just interested in the way you think, in the way you move, in the way your silence feels more honest than other men's flattery. But her body knows. Her nervous system knows. The moment she softens in your presence, the moment her guard melts a little around your stillness, that's when the feminine begins to tether itself. This isn't about romantic gestures or poetic speeches. This is about energy, polarity, the invisible dance between structure and surrender. A man who stands in his grounded masculine presence doesn't need to pursue a woman's affection. He becomes the lighthouse, and she, if her soul is ready, becomes the ship drawn to his shore. You see, her unconscious mind isn't seeking excitement, it's seeking containment, not control, not domination. by containment. A man who doesn't collapse when she tests him. A man who remains unshaken when she doubts, who doesn't need her approval to stay aligned with his own values. When she begins to fall in love, her first instinct isn't to confess, it's to attest. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Because a woman needs to know, not think, know percent, that the man she's letting into her inner world can withstand the weight of her storms. She wants to know that the man she's letting into her inner world can withstand the weight of her storms. She needs to know you won't flinch when she brings chaos, that you won't retreat when her emotions swell beyond words. So don't be fooled when she picks a fight over something small. Don't be deceived when she gets quiet, distant, or hard to read. These are not signs of disinterest. These are signs of fear, of intensity, of her unconscious beginning to rise and revolt against the vulnerability she didn't plan on feeling. She's more in love with you than she realizes, and it terrifies her, because the part of her that has been hurt, betrayed, left behind, that part is bracing for pain, even as her heart is reaching out for connection. This is where your strength matters most. Not strength in dominance, but strength in non-reactivity, the way you breathe when she's upset, the way you listen without trying to fix the way you hold the container when she is unraveling. That's what tells her you're safe. You don't have to run. I can handle your fullness. And when she senses that, when her soul detects that she can lose composure without losing a sou, that's when love deepens. That's when she begins to anchor into you. And make no mistake, anchoring is not weakness. For the feminine, anchoring is divine surrender. But it only happens in the presence of a man who doesn't demand it, a man who doesn't chase affection like oxygen, a man who can be alone, centered, and powerful, but invites. Her presence like a flame invites the moth, not with force, with fire, with the kind of steady heat that calls something ancient inside her to entrust again. Because what she truly wants, and may never say, is to fall into something larger than her doubts. She wants to relax into your rhythm. She wants to know that she doesn't have to lead, that she can be in her natural chaos, and you will not lose yourself in it. When that happens, something profound occurs. Her inner little girl, the wounded one, the guarded one, she starts to step aside. And the woman emerges, the one who chooses, the one who gives, the one who loves with the fury of a storm and the gentleness of a spring wind. But only if you remain the mountain, only if you don't flinch. Because she doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be solid. And if you are, she'll begin to offer you things she doesn't offer others. Not material things, energetic gifts, her attention, her trust, her body's softness, her willingness to follow your lead. Not because she's weak, because you've shown her that your leadership is not self-serving. It is conscious, protective, purposeful. She's more in love with you than she even realizes when she begins to mirror your calm. When her fire starts to burn and sink with your direction, when her moods begin to orbit your emotional gravity, and she may not speak it aloud, but she'll act it out in how she shares pieces of her past, in how she defends you when others criticize, in how she waits just a little longer for your response. These are the love letters her ego won't let her write, but her soul sends them anyway. Pay attention. The way she breathes deeper around you, the way she jokes to mask something deeper, the way she starts to let her armor down piece by piece, as if she's testing whether you'll stay. That's love, unspoken. That's the feminine heart unraveling. And the rare man doesn't interrupt it. He doesn't demand clarity. He provides it. He doesn't try to define her feelings. He defines his own boundaries, his own values, and lets her find safety in his self-possession. This is how a woman falls in love. Slowly, fearfully, but with a power that rewrites her very nervous system. And when it happens, you'll feel it, not in her words, in her presence, in the weight of her gaze, in the echo of her silence, in the way she begins to treat you as the axis around which her day spins. She begins to choose you, but not in the way movies portray, not in declarations or roses or candlelit confessions. She chooses you in the quiet, in the unseen, in the moment she thinks of you first when good news comes, or when life unravels. When something breaks inside her and your name rises to the surface, not because she needs rescue, but because your presence is her calm. This is the hidden geometry of love. The feminine opens in layers, not to the man who is loudest, but to the man who waits without pressure, who listens without trying to change her, who sees her fully without flinching. Her soul is a temple, and most men try to storm its gates, But the one who enters is the one who honors the threshold, who does not beg entry but stands in reverence, still, certain, whole. And when she senses that, when she feels that your energy remains intact even as she weaves around you, her instincts shift. She stops performing. She starts revealing. Her filters fade. She tells you secrets she didn't know she'd been hiding. She lets her voice go soft, her movements less guarded, her vulnerability, once withheld like currency, now offered freely as a gift. But you must know this. Love terrifies her, not because she's weak, but because she is strong. Strong enough to have survived betrayal, strong enough to have learned how to thrive without needing anyone. And yet, when she's near you, something ancient begins to stir, a longing to surrender not her power, but her edge, to put down her sword, not for a master, but for a man who wields his own. You'll notice it in the way she breathes deeper when you touch her, not because she's aroused, but because she's safe. In your energy, in your pace, in your stillness, you've become the sanctuary, and not through games or manipulation or bravado, through presence, through the silent command of a man who knows his own worth, a man who does not need love to be whole, but whose wholeness invites it. And this is the paradox she can't explain. The more detached you are from needing her affection, the more she's drawn to give it. The less you flinch at her moods, the more she trusts you with her truth. The more grounded you are in your own purpose, the more she yearns to orbit you. Not because you control her, but because you liberate her from the exhausting burden of having to lead. She's more in love with you than she even realizes when your voice becomes her anchor, when her body relaxes at the sound of it, when her inner world starts to reflect your influence, not because you forced it, but because you held space for it. And in that space, her feminine blooms, slowly, fiercely, beautifully. This is the sign, the real sign, not her words, not even her actions, but the shift in her essence, the way her chaos calms, the way her ambition softens without fading, the way her feminine begins to respond instead of react. She's not doing it for you. She's doing it 'cause of you, because your energy makes surrender feel safe again. And in that surrender, she sees you differently, not as an option, not as entertainment, but as foundation, as the rare man who doesn't chase the storm but welcomes it and commands it with silence. That's the man she builds a life around. That's the man she reshapes herself for without even realizing she's doing it. Don't take it for granted. Don't exploit it. Don't let your ego confuse reverence for dependence. She's not falling for you because you fixed her. She's falling for you because in your presence, she intermembers herself. And that memory, that return to her own femininity, is the most sacred kind of love she can offer. When that happens, when she begins to orbit your stillness, when her laughter is real and her eyes look past your smile into your soul, understand that something holy is unfolding, and all you must do is not interrupt it. The feminine heart does not unfold under pressure. It blossoms in trust, in presence, in time. And when she's more in love with you than even she realizes, it's because you've given her that time. You've allowed her soul to move at its own rhythm without demanding certainty, without forcing definitions. You've become the rare man who is patient enough to let love become what it is, not what it's labeled. This is where her transformation begins. Subtle, almost imperceptible at first, like a thawing winter. She starts craving your voice, not because it excites her, but because it grounds her. She starts remembering your phrases and quoting them back, unaware that your thoughts have taken root inside her. She starts aligning her actions with your standards, not to please you, but because those standards have awakened something higher within her. That's how you know. That's the sign. When you don't need to task her to rise, and yet she, Dave, does. When she begins to step into her higher self, simply because your energy makes the lower self too small for her. This is no longer attraction. It's initiation. And the man who triggers this sacred metamorphosis must be wise enough not to interfere, not to control, not to boast. He must witness it, silently, reverently. You may notice she grows more emotional. That's not weakness, that's cleansing. Her tears are not manipulation, they are the shedding of all the masks she wore to survive. Her sudden silences are not disinterest, they are the holy pause between who she was and who she's becoming. And all of it is a love letter in disguise. A confession she hasn't found the words for yet. And still, you must not chase it. Do not ruin the mystery by demanding answers. Do not strangle the becoming with your need to know. Stay grounded, stay noble, stay observant. Because every time you stay unmoved in the face of her uncertainty, every time you meet her fire with calm and her chaos with containment, you become the mirror she can finally see herself in. Clearly, fully, beautifully. And that's when the final shift happens. She'll begin to serve your mission, not because she's obedient, because she's inspired. She will elevate your name in rooms you're not in. She'll protect your reputation when others don't. She'll fight for your peace in ways that no woman before ever did. And still, she might not say, "I love you," because that would be redundant. By the time she's truly in love, she's already acting like it. She texts you less out of anxiety and more out of intention. She waits for you with peace instead of panic. She no longer flirts with chaos or ego-driven games. Why? Because she sees your value now, not just as a man, but as a kingdom, as a place her soul can build inside. And that kind of seeing changes a woman. It matures her, refines her. She stops comparing, she stops looking. She becomes devoted, not blindly, not naively, but consciously. Because the man she once feared would disappear has remained. And now she begins to trust what she feels, what she's felt all along but couldn't name. She's in love, deeply, unquestionably, unconsciously. It moved faster than logic, slower than impulse, and deeper than lust. And in this moment, the final moment, you'll see it in her eyes. Not when she smiles, but when she looks at you like you're the safest thing in a world full of predators. That gaze, that holy gaze, that's what poets try to describe and fail. That's the sign, the one she doesn't even know she's giving you. A silent whisper that says, "You don't have to ask, I'm already yours." And what do you do then? Nothing. You nod, you smile, you lead. Because the man who knows his worth doesn't chase, he chooses.